gentlemen, please help me to welcome in a moment our health professional panel. This is Mary Ellen Vanderbrink. Yes, please help me give her a round of applause as she comes up. Dr. Dale Extrom. Susan Adams. Dr. Joaquin Gonzalez. There we go. And Jim McAfee. Please help me. Who's anticipating a great panel? Wisdom, experience, knowledge to share with us. All right. First, I'd like to start with Mary Ellen. And you know, dropping your iPad's not a good way to start, but that's okay. Just as much. Would you hold that? That's for you anyhow. Saying I need some help here, don't I? All right. So Mary Ellen Vanderbrink is a world team member. She's also a board-certified registered holistic nutritionist. And Mary Ellen, I understand that you started out just as a regular distributor, or now we call them promoters, before you became a health professional.
Yep.
So would you share with us, why did you choose to partner with NeoLife, and how have the products impacted your health and your clients?
Yes, 21 years ago, I was actually, I have two boys. They're now 33 and 31, but at the time they were like 10 and 12. And my 10-year-old is one of those kids with respiratory problems and eczema, and of course every time I went to the doctor, here's another inhaler. And as a concerned mom, I was working as a law clerk at the time. I thought there's got to be a better way to deal with this. And so I don't know if any of you tried other products. I tried changing his diet, and he still was having a lot of issues. And one night we went and had dinner at a friend's house who I hadn't seen in about 3 months. And this girl was always sick with bronchitis and pneumonia, and she was tired. And I thought it was because she had 3 small kids. So when we went to see her, and I couldn't believe it. She looked, we talk about the GNLD glow. I could see right in her face, she just looked amazing. And so I asked her what she was doing, and that's how I heard about the NeoLife products. And I said to her, I said, come on, I said, what makes this different? She said, all I know is it's whole food, and it's the only thing I've done different. So I was like, okay, I have nothing to lose, I'm gonna give it a try. So Nana St. Germain actually came over to my home, and she said to me, do you know any tired people? And I said, everyone I know is tired. So I said, come on over. I said, I don't know a lot about this, but I said, just come and listen. And so I had a group of people get together, and anyways, it made a lot of sense to me. Because even though I exercised, ate a good diet, I drank water, I was doing the right things, I still wasn't getting the results. So I started my son on the program, a children's program. Within 6 months, his health completely turned around. He had no more respiratory problems. And actually today he's a firefighter. So that showed. Yep, my handsome husband Henry back there, he's a police officer in Toronto. He's retired now. Early retirement, thanks to NeoLife. But actually, yeah, and he didn't have any health issues himself, and he thought he didn't need the products. Took me a little while to convince him, but once he tried it, he actually knows the difference too. And my older son had no health issues, but he started focusing better in school. And myself, I was such a bad migraine sufferer, and even though my brother and my dad and everyone was very genetic, I was able to put that to sleep. And so I just got really, really super excited about that. And how I built my business in the beginning was I just shared those stories of my family, of myself, because so many people have issues. How many people do you talk to? They're all, they're telling you that they have all these problems. And so I really didn't know a lot about health and nutrition at the time. I had to educate myself. But the interesting thing was with the information NeoLife was so amazing. The more I learned about the company, the more I realized I was in the right place. And by sharing my story, I actually met one of my top directors, Joan and Winston Poon, and I was at a jewelry party, and Joan had some health issues, and we were chatting, and I just shared my son's story. And by sharing that story, she said, I'm really interested, I want to get together. So of course, I think I had to call her 3 or 4 times because she was working as a nurse and she was busy. And we got together and she started on one product and she noticed the difference, started upgrading. She went to a Don Lawson, she was so impressed, and she started sharing the products. And she's been a consistent director over 19 years, every month in my organization.
Wow.
And because of the sharing the story. I built up my business, and I went actually from full-time to part-time to no time at the law firm. And that's when I went back to school, because I really have a passion for nutrition, to become a registered holistic nutritionist, just because I wanted to learn more and share more and just understand more. And honestly, I actually ended up valedictorian for the whole country and stuff, because the science in NeoLife was even so much farther advanced than what I was even getting in school. So it was pretty amazing. So yeah.
Well, you know, I found that interesting that, as you shared, you started out you didn't start out as a registered holistic nutritionist, and you quit your job, as you just shared. Then you went back to school to do that. It's interesting you brought the nurse on board before you had that certification, right? And built a full-time business, quit her job, then went back to school. And I wanted to ask you, what would you say to somebody who feels like that, well, I need to be a professional in order to share these products? You didn't start out that way.
No, actually, especially now, even with the upgrades that we saw today on the website, there's so much great information with NeoLife. If you have a passion for nutrition and you want to help people, you don't have to be a professional. You just can share your story and the information. If you want to learn more about health and nutrition, it's at your fingertips on the website. You don't have to be the message, just be the messenger and share the information with people.
That reminds me of what Joan Poon said on the business panel at the NeoLife Club launch in Canada. And when she said she's the nurse that Mary Ellen was just speaking of, and I wrote it down because it really hit me. She said we need to relinquish the outcome, just share it and don't worry about the results.
Exactly.
And I think that's exactly what you were just saying yourself, that we just need to be the messenger, just share it.
That's right. That's right. And when I went to my holistic nutrition course, you run in, there's so many diets, there's so many products, and everyone says there's the best. And I was looking, like when you start to really look, there's no other companies out there that use whole food ingredients. Like I see them at the conferences, whole food, and you look at, like, say, the source of their beta carotene, and it's made from pond scum. You know, like dunolina, selena, it's not made from food. The vitamin E's don't have all 8 parts. You know, so there's definitely big differences in the science behind NeoLife, because we've been in this for so many years, right? This isn't just a company that's bought over someone else and put their name on it, you know, for sure. So.
Well, let's give it up for Mary Ellen. And next we have Dr. Dale Extrom, brand new director last month. Although when I was talking with your wife, Sherry, she said, you know, he doesn't even know. He just loves sharing the products. He's not sure what level he is, but he keeps sharing. And Dr. Extrom is a board-certified in family medicine, also has a degree in pharmacology. He's a very busy man, so for those who say they don't have time as a professional, I don't think they could give you that excuse, could they? He operates an urgent care center with a focus on sports medicine and an aesthetic anti-aging clinic. So, Dr. Extrom, why did you choose to partner with NeoLife? I'm sure this isn't the first product that you've heard about or the first person to approach you. And how have the products helped you and your patients?
I became interested in NeoLife through Bob and Debbie Plough, and my wife and I started using them. And I felt better, and I started, saying, well, there's something to this. And through medicine, we know that natural products work. People would prefer to take natural products over prescribed medicines if it works. There's nothing that I found that was reliable out there, because it may start out well, but then they turn to trash and try to make a profit and try, you've heard the stories. But when I started looking at NeoLife, every corner that I turned around, it became more and more reliable and more and more veracity to their claims. So I started, thinking of it that way. But I approach my practice like each patient that comes through the door, I say, what would I want my family to be treated like, or how would I treat my family for this particular patient? And my daughter turns out in high school, a very, very talented young lady, and she has adrenal fatigue and then ultimately adrenal burnout, and she was not able to drag herself out of bed in her junior year. And we did not know if she was going to be able to finish high school. So we, along with having finally the diagnosis, which I've learned a lot about, and many of the symptoms that we could chalk up to depression and chronic fatigue and all that stuff really have to do with adrenal burnout. And so that was an education for me. But we started giving her the product, she started feeling better, and she decided that she was feeling better, so she was going to hike across Spain for the summer in a summer school with Pepperdine. And I said, you know, that's kind of a lofty goal, honey, but let's go ahead and start training. But if you don't feel good enough to do it, well, you don't have to. Well, turns out that we started training, and she ended up doing the Camino de Santiago in 5 weeks, a 512-mile hike, starting in France, going all the way through Spain, learning Spanish, and now she's actually doing this year in Patagonia down at Buenos Aires. She's been backpacking around Patagonia, loving the products. The only thing she took down there was like 3 outfits and 4 suitcases full of product, because when you send stuff down to Buenos Aires, seriously, people go through the stuff and they'll take whatever they want, and then it finally gets to them. So we just sent her all down with it. She was embarrassed, though, you know, this is the worst thing. You guys make me take all this stuff. Well, she's been hiking, and you can look on her Facebook, but she's been hiking glaciers, doing the Inca Trail, and snowboarding in Antarctica, and chasing penguins and jaguars. Seriously, this is not a joke. That's what she's doing. But so with that, it just really, really made a difference in her life. So the second thing that came along is my son is a talented football player, and he was on the JV team, and he had a really great game, and he was being moved up to varsity. Well, that Monday in practice, he broke his ankle. Basically, the season was over. The trainer called me, and I'm the team doctor for the high school. And I went down and got him, and he's limping, and this guy plays with broken arms, broken fingers, and he's not a wimp. So he's limping, I go, there's something going on here. I pressed on his bone, and I was 80% sure he had a fracture. And I took him down and got an x-ray, and I saw the x-ray tech take the picture. The reason I'm telling you this is because I would have thought later that he got the x-ray mixed up with somebody else's, but they took the picture, I saw him put the plate in the computer, and it pulled it straight up. It was his ankle, didn't get it mixed up with somebody else's. There was a spiral break all the way through his tibia. The kind of fracture that I would immobilize for about 3 weeks, start gentle weight bearing about 3 weeks later, and then I'd rehab him for another 2 or 3 weeks before they even had a chance of playing on it, okay? Well, I didn't want to put him in a cast right away because it's swelling, and you want to let that swelling go up and down. And it started in, I said, Sherry, what do we have to lose? Let's put him on salmon oil, Pro Vitality, and CalMag. 5 days later, he's not having that much pain. He goes, Dad, can I go take a shower? We're sitting watching football. I said, yeah, just be careful, don't fall in the shower. He takes off his splint, and he runs upstairs with no pain. That's 5 days after I diagnosed the fracture, or after his orthopedist. I let an orthopedist make the call. And he came down and said, Dad, I don't have any pain. And I said, that's not really likely, son. So I poked him and he said, yeah, that hurts a little bit. He said, can I play this week? I mean, this is the following week. And I said, no, we have to go check the orthopedist. So we went to the orthopedist. The orthopedist said, let's take another picture. Looked at it, you can see the healing that would be in place 6 weeks later. Somebody followed all the instructions. It was amazing. I mean, he's a 15-year-old, but so they heal well. But that made me, the only thing we did differently in his life was the NeoLife products. And a 15-year-old's body can heal pretty quickly. Now, I'm trying to apply the same thing to a 52-year-old body, and it works, but not quite as fast. So anyway, that story with my son allowed me to know that first, I can't do any harm to people because it's whole food products. You really cannot hurt people with this stuff. So that's my main priority when I approach people. But many of the drugs we prescribe, I'll be honest, they're harmful. They have potential to harm. This, you can be confident that it will not harm people. Now, when I sit down with people and I say, okay, and I have a unique opportunity, I know, because people come to me and they have their cholesterol's up, and I say, okay, would you rather spend $300 for fish oil per month on the prescription fish oil, or try something natural that's reliable for whatever the salmon oil is, maybe $50 a month at the most, probably less than that, and have better results? And they say, well, I say, let's try it for 6 months and measure it. I've had nobody want to or need to go to the prescription strength medicine for those things. So I have a group of people I just refer them to get them started, because I don't want the patients to think that I'm capitalizing basically, on what they need. So I hand them over to some of my team to go ahead and sign them up for that stuff. But those are the stories, and I can tell you ad nauseum number of stories that that have taken place that made me a firm believer in this company.
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, it's, Salmon Plus, and when I was talking with you earlier and with your wife last week, she was talking about how you're seeing a lot of cases with more inflammation in your patients. And so is that, she mentioned mental issues, and how is that?
Yeah, we really don't understand the human body. Whenever we think we understand it, we get a little deeper, we find out how extremely intricate God has made our body, and that's another one of the reasons I believe that toxins affect it so much, but that allowing the nutrients to get in and the waste products to get out allows us to heal and our body to do what it's supposed to. But salmon oil specifically decreases inflammation in a number of ways. It's one of my go-to basically starting products because I've seen an increase, and I know these other guys here too have seen an increase in inflammatory diseases, inflammatory bowel disease, migraines, eczema, skin disorders, hair loss, many things can be traced back to inflammation. And allowing the salmon oil, the omega-3s to get in where they need to and decrease the inflammatory cytokines, interleukins, those sorts of things, and get those waste products out have really dramatically helped a number of my patients. So I believe the anti-inflammatory effects of the Trianin and the salmon oil specifically are really valuable for most of my patients for almost any condition. But especially the inflammatory conditions. By the way, not only do my son and daughter benefit, but I have 2 dogs who had eczema, and we have my pet pal, and it turned their skin around. They're the happiest dogs now. So my whole family, I don't think our parakeets on it yet, but
And lastly, can you share with us the story you were telling me about the NeoLife tea and how that's helping your patients?
Yeah. Many people come in with headaches related to daily chronic use of medications, but specifically caffeine. They're hooked on caffeine. And they stop caffeine, they don't like to go through withdrawals of caffeine. And so the NeoLife tea allows people to get off caffeine without that withdrawal. So they can just simply do directly a trade over from coffee into tea. You can dress it up in numerous ways to make it. You can add, Good Earth tea has some cinnamon in it. You can add that. But if you're drinking 3 cups of coffee in the morning to get rid of that headache and get going, you can do a half of a little packet in warm water, and that's equal to about 2.5 cups of coffee. But the stimulant effect of the tea takes away the headache, the withdrawal effects of the coffee, but it also has a more even, sustained release of energy, and it lasts longer. It's got methylxanthines in it versus the caffeine, and that's allowed a number of my patients to get rid of their chronic daily headaches, but then also get off caffeine, specifically coffee. So I use it in that way. I use it as an appetite suppressant in my weight loss patients. I have a weight loss component to my aesthetic clinic also. So I use it as just have to be careful not to use it too late at night because it keeps me awake.
Because that works.
Yeah, it does, yeah. That's why the college students love that, by the way. So.
Thank you very much. Let's give it a round. And next we have Susan Adams, a psychiatric nurse, 43 years. Looking at her, you would never believe that though, would you? And she says she likes to say she's not a normal nurse, that she's passionate about nutrition and helping the body heal itself. Can you share your story with us?
Thank you. Thank you for letting me be here. I really am passionate about the body being able to heal itself, just like God made it to do. And these products help it do that, just that. And so I certainly wouldn't be here. I seriously don't know that I'd be working or even alive if God hadn't brought Joshua into our life 15 years ago as a divine appointment, as somebody else already was talking about. God just bringing people together. So personally, I wasn't interested in the products or anything that Joshua had to say for myself, because I was already taking a lot of different products, and I was hanging in there, but I felt awful. but I was interested in hearing what he had to give for Lee's mom, who was going downhill fast with pancreatic cancer. So we listened. He had something for the immune system, he said, and we got her on that. Carotenoids, actually phytonutrients, several packs a day, plus many more things, and saw her have a very remarkable improvement in only 3 weeks. That got my attention, to see some results so quick in my mother-in-law, who was 82 years old. So then I decided to start. Lawrence and Marjorie counseled me, start on that digestion first. If your digestion isn't working right, all these wonderful nutritional products aren't going to get in as best as they should. So the Acidophilus Plus and the Betazyme I started with, and then quickly added just the Formula 4. It was before Pro Vitality. And I just took that for 4 months, along with some of the other supplements I'd been taking. And then after 4 months, I really was sleeping better, and digestive issues were healing up. And I should tell you what was wrong with me, because I'll give many of you hope for yourselves and maybe other people. I had 22 of the 44 symptoms of what we call fibromyalgia. I had terrible sleep patterns. I did work night shifts, and I was always shifting back and forth, which is not a good idea. And the digestive issues were awful, hormonal issues. I was 49, but the worst thing was the mental problems I was having. Terrible mood swings, depression, and what we call brain fog, or just the inability to concentrate or remember. And I was afraid at 49 that I was getting early onset Alzheimer's, and it was really scary. So after about 4 months, I was beginning to feel better, and I thought, why am I still taking these other brand products? They haven't helped me that much. And so I went 100% to GNLD, NeoLife, and I traded the Formula 4 out for Active 40 Plus, because I was over 40, and also started taking 3 carotenoids, 3 trianin, and 3 salmon oils a day. And very shortly after that, I added the feminine herbal. You know, it has the St. John's wort in it that helps with the mood, leveling of the mood, and also the mind enhancement that has the ginkgo in it that helps with memory. And I still take all those things today, and actually more. But 4 more months on those things, so in 8 months total, I felt like I was really getting better again. What I noticed was I had an opportunity to go on a hike with my daughter. We were homeschooling, and she had a hike up a mountain that was about 4 hours long, right after I worked 2 12-hour night shifts with no chance to sleep. And she begged me to go along, and I said, all right, I will, because they had to have one mom go for the girls to be able to go, so I went. After working 12 hours, we drove for 4 hours, we hiked for 4 hours up a mountain, and you could do it. And after that, I was tired, but I slept all night in a tent on a windy mountain, 12 hours, and this is when I woke up absolutely recovered. And I was shocked, and I realized that these products have given me new energy, great endurance, and quick recovery. And so I've said that all along. Energy, endurance, and quick recovery from any kind of stress. So I was really impressed by that. And so, while I was not a bit interested in the business, at the beginning, we started talking about these products to other people, now that we had some really great results. And by the convention of 2001, which is about 18 months after we met Joshua, and by the way, Chelsea mentioned about following up. We wouldn't be here today if Joshua hadn't followed up and followed up and followed up pretty much every month until we finally got on board. So we came to the first convention in 2001 as a new director, and it's just been uphill since then. And it's been a wonderful experience. We've been at every convention since then. And for those of you who were here last year on this panel, you heard my friend Liz Moore. I'm going to tell you her story next. Because another divine appointment happened 7 years ago, 7 years after Lee and I started this business, and at an event, I met a total stranger named Liz Moore. She overheard me telling somebody else Marjorie Clark's story about how she built her immune system. And Liz said, can I listen in on your story? My immune system, she said, is completely shot. She said, I have had Lyme disease for 17 years, and actually, she was dying, and she had been let go by her Lyme specialist in New Jersey, who said, Liz, I hope you can go and figure this out, but I don't have anything else to offer you. And Liz already had like a perfect diet, a perfect clean diet and lifestyle, and still she was dying and her white blood cell count was very, very low at the point of leukemia. So she was really preparing to die. But she thought, and she and her husband, who's a scientist, thought maybe the answer is in supplements, but they had tried many supplements and never could find ones that helped her. She had to spend thousands, I think she said tens of thousands of dollars on a supplement over the last year or two, and she was worse. So she had a lot of questions for me. She and her husband had come up with certain criteria. She said, are these supplements, she said, are you talking about supplements? I said, I am. She said, are these supplements whole food? Yes. Does the company manufacture their own supplements, or do they farm them out to somebody where you lose control of the quality? I said, we make our own. We have our own production facility. Good. She's asked, are the products, I said, whole food? She said, are they like organic? I said, they're beyond organic. We check everything for transgenic DNA, so that they're not genetically modified ever. And they're even better than organic because we test and test and test. Well, Liz was really impressed by the science, and she had a few more questions that we met her criteria, so she was convinced of the company. And then I shared a CD by Dr. Lawson, and she learned about the science. And when she shared that with her husband, he said, all right, let's give it a try. So she signed up. A couple days later, she bought a whole bunch of stuff. And she started taking everything at once. And one thing that happened that you all should be aware of, she had about 10 days of feeling awful. She was detoxing even more, because when you put good things in, the bad stuff has a chance to finally leave. And after the 10th day, she started feeling better. She thought, I think I'm going to live. Well, 5 weeks later, she was significantly better. She went skiing with her family for the first time in 10 years. And by 8 months, she was at the first women's empowerment thing that we had in Chicago. That was like 7 years ago. Meanwhile, as she got convinced of these products, she began to build a business from home. She said in her pajamas, 1 disciplined hour a day, and in 1 year, while she recovered, she also became a director. Wow. So that was pretty amazing. Another 6 weeks. So that data is on her website, and you're going to read how she is called livingbynutrition.com. livingbynutrition.com, and she'll be happy for you to go there. But you'll see how in the first, I see my blood results. And I must say that the Lyme doctor said she got excited if her blood count went up only 3 or 4 or 5%. Well, after 6 weeks on NeoLife, it was up 100%. And then, after 6 more weeks, it was up another 100%, and she was out of the danger zone, and she knew she was going to live.
All right, thank you, Susan. And Dr. Gonzalez, let me end with you, because I want you to share that challenge that you shared with me the other day. So let me end with you. Can we go to Jim McAfee? And so we have Jim is I was writing a couple notes about his experience. And clinical nutritionist, author, researcher, serves on the board. This is interesting. This is what I wanted to get right. Serves on the board of the International Association of Clinical Nutritionists, and he actually writes the exams for them that they take. Okay, he's also serves in the NeoLife Health Professional Council, and he's a research director of the Image Awareness Institute. Jim.
Exams alone, there's a whole group of us that do that. I just want to make that clear. I became interested in NeoLife actually before I became actively involved in the business, because there was a stint here where I worked in a mental hospital, and one of the patients found out that my family worked with the NeoLife products, and so he asked if he could start on one of the packages, and so I picked up some stress pack for him. from my parents, and I gave it to him. He was the only person I ever saw leave the mental hospital while I worked there. So, that interested me, but my mother became involved when she fell at 43 years of age, and the doctor told her that she had bones like a little old lady. And she began taking the supplement because she'd seen her grandmother collapse in front of her. The hip disintegrated, and she died from complications. So when she started using the supplements, the break, which the doctor described as a break just like a little old lady would have. She's 89 now, almost 90. The bone healed in half the time the doctor strengthened it too. And that was impressive. But actually all of our family had tremendous benefit from the supplements, and this is my introduction. I pursued it scientifically, looked at a lot of things, but I saw my experience with my mother. My father was tragically involved in a fire that damaged his lungs, and the carotenoid and the vitamin E meant so much to him from the standpoint of improving his ability to breathe. I have a sister who had mononucleosis at the time she began the supplements, and her immune system activated. She'd been suffering for months. Within 5 days, she was over the mono. Another family member who suffered with schizophrenia, spent a year going through shock therapy and incarcerated. We were able to get him out and get him on the supplements, and we put him on protein and the vitamins and the minerals, and it was right around that time that the company made the breakthrough with the chelation process of the minerals, and that really made a difference for him. He's been able to live a normal life, which I don't think otherwise would have been possible. And this is one of the great things about NeoLife is it is a new life for many people. My mother and I were sitting in the office a while back, and we got a call from the first distributor my mother ever signed up. His name was Herman. And when she signed him up, he could not grow hair. He had so many ulcerations on his head. He was morbidly obese. His employer had to write instructions down for him because his memory was so poor he couldn't remember what he was supposed to do on his work. And he began supplementing, and he was very generous in the use of the supplements. He was taking large quantities of lipotropic adjunct and Formula 4 and a lot of the things that were available. This is back, about 43 years ago. Well, he called up, and he was in his 80s, and he had developed kidney disease and was on dialysis. He called up and he said, "I just wanted to call you." He said, "I've instructed the doctors to disconnect me from the dialysis machine, but I wanted to call you and talk to you and to Lucille and express my gratitude for the fact that you gave myself and my wife a life, because we would have never made it to the age that we did." It was remarkable to me to see the changes in him over time, because he lost all that weight. He grew a robust head of hair, like this man here. And he became involved in the business. When the company had a convention, no matter where it was, he traveled there so he could spend time with us. And so, it goes from the standpoint not just of the nutrition, but the relationships as well. I wanted to share one thing about the quality of the product, because this was so helpful to my family member. Dr. First was a close family friend. Whenever we did a group get-together, he always showed up. And I think he had a special affection for my mother. So he enjoyed listening to her. I always liked to sneak in and talk to him and learn things. But he invited me to his lab one time, and I went in there, and I was looking at the different things that he was doing, and he had a piece of equipment sitting there, and I said, "What's this?" And he said, "Well, this is a piece of equipment that I use to study minerals with." And he said, "We can take any mineral on the market, and we can do an analysis of it and see if it's truly chelated or not, because many companies, what they do is they just take a mineral and they take an amino acid, they throw them together in a solution, they dry it out, and they call it a chelated mineral. So that doesn't work. You don't get a true chelating effect unless you vary the pH and the temperature and the concentrations over a period of time. So he said this is how we can actually tell what another product is, and whether we can tell whether ours is made the way that it should be. I thought that would be a valuable piece of information to share with you. And I've had a couple of interesting episodes occur recently that I wanted to share. And one of them is I got an actual video from someone that had called up, and she was in excruciating pain, particularly in her hands and her knees, and she could not put her own shoes on. She could not walk up the stairs in her home. And she said, you know, I don't have a lot of money, but can you give me some suggestion of something that might help? And and she'd purchased my book and read that, so she wanted to find out what ideas I had that might be helpful. So I suggested that she try the salmon oil and the Formula 4 Plus and acidophilus. She had a pretty serious case of rheumatoid arthritis. And I told her, it's important you stick with it. I think this is important. A lot of times people don't get results because they try things for too short a period of time, or they don't use enough of the product to get the results. Within 2 months, she was feeling improvement. Within 5 months, she was completely over her problem and doing great. And one of the people that is with us here today is Dr. Ursula Hempstead. And we did a shake party.
Will you stand up?
Stand up.
Ursula's a wonderful person and very, very bright. And when we did the shake party in her home, there was a woman that teaches vaulting, which is doing gymnastics on horses. This woman has had many, many falls. She was on a lot of pain medication. She had difficulty sleeping because of the pain. And she began on the Pro Vitality and the shake. And within 1 week, she was down to only one pain pill, and she was sleeping through the night. So very, very dramatic results, and really with a minimal amount of supplementation.
Thank you, Jim. Final panelist, we have Dr. Joaquin Gonzalez Aragon, who is a board-certified geriatric specialist, world-renowned, I might add. He's a consultant in aging and health education, has been for the UN and the World Health Organization for 15 years. He's a professor in addition to having practiced medicine. He is a speaker, international, world-renowned speaker and lecturer at conferences, at scientific meetings, professor at universities. He's also an author. I learned last night, which I have one of his books, but I learned last night I need 10 more. He's written 11 books, so a prolific author. And he is also a 5-diamond director. So he is, he's a very humble man, but he has impacted millions of people's lives around the world. And we're honored to have him close out later on. He and his wife, Deanna Ramirez, will close today's session a little later on. But I've asked him he was kind enough to also agree to be on our health panel. He also serves on the NeoLife Health Professional Council as well.
Thank you. Hello everybody. Are you enjoying the convention? First of all, I'm going to tell you a recognition remark to my wife, Diana. If it is not for her, I would be a Sapphire director. A regular Sapphire director, buying products and selling to my patient the products, seeing good results and keeping money for me. Because usually doctors when we find something good, something that really works, we want to keep it secret for us. No, the others, they don't have to know it. And this is my secret. As a matter of fact, many of my students do that. They are very good directors, they're very good. The most are sapphires. Never do the business. You know, they are ashamed in the medical community. What the medical society is going to say? What do the other practitioners that now we're selling pills? I'm going to tell you this. Once I went a big congress, let's say 1,000 attendants, and one of the questions at the end of the lecture was from one of the audience. Dr. Gonzalez, you were a very good doctor. You were an excellent clinician, an excellent professor and researcher until you became a merchant. Imagine that in front of the medical community. And my friend said, don't say that. When a professor is like, no, I don't need to defend me. And I said, listen, I continue to be a good physician, an excellent clinician, 45 years, looking at patients every day. I can recognize who of you is sick from here, but I'm not telling you this professional secret. And I continue to be a good professor and a recognized lecturer. But I disagree with you, I'm not a merchant. I am an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur physician. And I create income for the people, for the families. Tell me, doctor, how many income opportunities do you create? Don't answer. Maybe 2, maybe 3. Your receptionist, your secretary, and your nurse. In the Daphne group, more than 3,000 persons every year receive bonus from the GNLD company, and we receive commission for the bonus all these people receives. This is not to be a merchant. This is to be an entrepreneur who is creating jobs in a country where we have economical problems and we need people creating jobs. And those of you are interested, come here. And say again, Diana said, the products work. Yes. To me, no one invited me. No one approached me. This is a product, look at this, very nice. I found it in a table with a distributor in an expo. I saw the formulas and I said, lady, you have a treasure in here. Can you send me tomorrow 300 pieces of lipotropic? And she said, I don't have them. I said, why you are here? What is the price? And she said, 300 pesos. But if you register 200 pesos, don't waste our time. You have to sign up here, and tomorrow you will have your 300 pieces. Sign up, okay? Next day she came with 300 pieces. What I didn't know is that they didn't take American Express. But the lady was so smart. She placed the money, she bought the product, and she said, may I have another form of payment because they don't take American Express. She knew it, but she didn't, she was not going to miss the opportunity. That's a story. Since then, I always try to find something that could stop the damage of the drugs. We don't have statistics in Mexico. Maybe you have here in the United States. But at least 20% of the people coming to the hospitals, emergency or for any problem, are related to iatrogenia. Iatrogenia is the damage by the drugs. The pharmaceutical company's interest is tremendous. The industry is voracious. They want to sell and to sell. They don't think when they meet, what are the people that we have hit this year? They say, what were our goals last year because we have to superate this year? Health? What is that? The government has their program, Social Security in Mexico. We have three kinds of Social Security. We have Social Security for the people for free, but they don't fulfill really the requirements. Joshua mentioned that they work for the World Health Organization. In 1982, we created a strategy called self-care. People have to assume the responsibility to take care by themselves. It's not the government, are not the institutions. The doctors, we are supporters of nature. People have to change their lifestyles. People have to move to a clean environment. People have to take actions. If they don't do, they are going to be sick, and they are going to be in the sickness industry, not in the wellness industry. That is what we do in GND. We try to move forward in that direction. I can tell you, there is a lot of suffering in this world. Right now, here, I have heard stories because they come, may I have your advice? Sure. Stories. People with grandchildren with leukemia, with sons and daughters, with another type of cancer and all that. Is this the world we want for our generation and the generations to come? We need to move and to see that nutrition, bad nutrition and stress are the killers of the 25th century. Bad habits in nutrition is terrible. No one is going to change. I think that GNT is a great opportunity. We are concerned because we cannot say we cure diseases. But the products cure diseases. Is that right? My mother is a cancer survivor. She had breast cancer at 70 years old. She's 90. 20 years survivor with regenerative products. If we know free of diabetes, they don't take any pill, any insulin, anything. They are slim, they are healthy with regenerative products. But diabetes is not curable for medicine. And if I say that in TV or in the media, diabetes can be cured, then I could lose my license. Then I am a quacker, a fake. This is something we cannot do. I have said to Jerry Bransford many times, Jerry, you don't even know how good your products are. You know they are good, but they are better than you might ever. And he said, I know. I know they are better than everybody knows. This is our chance, because this doesn't stop. The trend continues, up, up, up. I was listening to your testimony. How many patients are now in Xanax, in Effexor, in clonazepam? So many psychiatrists, and all these people are tied up to the medications. And you know what? Both oncologists, psychiatrists, internal medicine, pediatricians say, do not take supplements. What do they benefit by saying do not take supplements? What do you lose and the people lose by listening do not take supplements? Our responsibility is good supplements, but these are not good. They're the best. These are whole food supplements. Joshua likes to say, before I touch my practice, 20, 30 patients a day during 25 years. 35 years, 20, maybe to 50 patients per day. 35 days, 35 years, 35. Now I touch millions of lives with the supplements of GNP. And thank to my Hispano group. I came here in 2004. I was more than 50 years old, maybe 58 years old. Never thought I could cross the line with you to work for the benefit of your lives. You came here for a better future, for you, for your children. You send money to Mexico. You sustain families in Mexico. You're part of our economy. In exchange, you gave your life, you gave your health. You got diabetes, you got cancer and anything. Now we have the challenge to help all of them. Don't let us down. We do it with a lot of passion and with a lot of excitement, coming to help you and also to share our story with you. Finally, the last week, a child, 4 years old, brain tumor, scar here big. The doctor said we could not retire the blastoma, the glioblastoma, complete. Remains were left. Some other doctors said we have to do lobotomy to excise half of the brain. The child will be in wheelchair. The child will be unable. We don't say how much he can do. The mother said no operation, no more operations. She has been. I saw the MRI. The MRI, half of the brain was complete, half of the brain was with dots like this, perforated. 6 months with Trey and Salmon. And we bring the boy to say hello to you. 4 years. And the boy walking, talking. Hi, doctor. What is your disease? Mayo disease. The name of the disease, he could say it. And the mother was surprised to see that he's not disabled. This is a miracle. And I have seen so many miracles that I never saw as I was an allopathic doctor, when I was an allopathic doctor. Thank you, Josh.